Go get me some knowledge.
I've met and talked to other NFL coaches, longtime college coaches that went back to coach in high school because they just love coaching. Mike Sherman, my old coach. I don't know if you know Mike as well. Like Mike,
he coached me.
Mike was down in the Cape somewhere, like about an hour away from me right now. And I remember talking to all these guys, and I'm curious, like, how different is your approach when you coach a high school kid, a college kid, or a pro?
For me, honestly, the approach is still the same. I don't think you need to. The game is different. Okay. So the complexity of the game can be different. The complexity of an NFL game is way different than a high school game, obviously. But if you break it down into simple terms where that player can understand, regardless of whether he's in high school or in the NFL, that's all the player wants. Just break it down so I can understand it and speak my language. So I think that was the one thing coming from the NFL and going right into high school is I had to figure out how to dumb down, so to speak, all the knowledge that I had. You know, I couldn't teach them, hey, this is this is one robber, one blitz. This is two invert. This is two sky invert. They're like, whoa, hold on, time out. I can't.
Sky.
What is that?
Go back.
Come on. Is it one high or two high? And that's the thing is you got to break it down to its simplest form. So it's really no different to coaching in the NFL. There's a lot of first year college players that, I hate to say it, were never really taught in college, and they weren't taught the fundamentals in college and some of the basics. So, you know, again, you have to speak their language to where they can understand it and you know, to allow a player to play fast. So I think the approach is the same. But then again too, I mean, Christian, you know, there are players too where you need like trigonometry degree to speak their language.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm like, well,
the Ivy League kids. The Ivy League kids. Those are the Ivy League kids.
That wasn't me. That wasn't me. I mean, I wasn't that player. I didn't want to be taught that way. I didn't want to be coached that way. But you do have some of those as well. So a little bit of both. But at the same time, I think for me, it's very similar. Whether you're coaching a high school kid or an NFL kid, NFL player, giving them the information that they can fully understand and grasp what you're talking about.
Let's just say a guy comes from a college, because there's a lot of great athletes and they go to small schools and their offensive system is just whack. Their defensive system is just odd, but it works for them. They're not technically up on the minutia that is an offensive game plan, and they don't know voids and they don't know spacing and they don't know route concept. It's completely foreign to them. If you find a guy like that, something else I'm assuming has to stand out for you to give them a chance to kind of integrate into your system. What are those kind of characteristics? If you know someone doesn't have, like, not everyone can go to Alabama, right, or play in the SEC. So what else would you need to see to know that this guy stands out, this guy can make it in the NFL?
Well, I think that's, you know, if you're in the National Football League, you're there for a reason, right? You're a good football player. Regardless of the position you play, you're a good football player. You've earned the right to be there. It's our job as a coach to make sure that you understand the information, and everybody learns differently. And it's our job, again, as coaches, to figure out when you're in that room to figure out, okay, these three guys learn a certain way. I got another two or three guys over here. Well, they need to be more on the field. They need more hands-on on the field. They need to be those rep guys. You know, you got guys that can just look at it on the screen and go, oh, I got it. But then you got the other guys that are like, I don't really understand it. So let's go get the reps on the field. And then they go, I got it. Right. And so you have those types of players. And I think that's what you got to figure out as a coach, is just how that player learns best. And then you have to tailor your teaching methods to suit everybody, right? You've sometimes you got to go, okay, I'm going to speak, Chinese for a second here, and then I'm going to come back and just speak English over here, right? So everybody learns differently. And I think that's the balance that you have to have. And I think that's the beauty of a football team too, is you get so many cultures and so many backgrounds and so many
Hmm.
personalities, and you're trying to bring all that together for one common goal, and that's a 3-hour football game on Sunday. And at the end of the day, you're trying to win that game. So that to me is, if you can figure that out as a coach, then that's where you get the respect and I think the integrity of being a coach, and how your players respond to you.
I cannot talk to you without bringing up your tagline. I don't know what you call it, but it's row the boat, right? And it's the oar, it's the boat, and it's the compass. But I want you to talk about it briefly, but I am curious how you came up and how you discovered that way of describing it. Were you on a walk in during the fall and you saw somebody struggling with their oars? How did you come up with the idea of row the boat? Like, where did that start?
Yeah, well, I'll take you back to February 9th, 2011, and I have no problem sharing these types of stuff. And this is, again, this is about being authentic and real. And sometimes head coaches were looked at as celebrities, like we have no issues, no problems in life. And you're only looked at as coach. You're not looked at as a person. February 9th, 2011, my second son passed away to a heart condition. And that changes your life forever. If you ever held your son as they've taken their last breath, that's the worst day you could ever have in your life. So everything else on top of it is positive. So there's no bad days. There's hard days, but no bad days. And when you have that type of mindset and you take something from tragedy, you don't share it to get attention. What you're sharing it for is you're sharing it to influence and use your platform to influence other people's lives while you have the platform. And that's how I've always looked at my life. I'm here to do and give on a bigger level to a community, a state, whoever's willing to listen, that I can help, that has gone through the same things I've gone through, or is going through something that's really difficult that they never think they're going to make their way out of it. And you can think about 105 out of 105 players have all had something tragic happen to them. The first thing I always ask our players is, give me the hardest thing you've ever been through. I don't want somebody who's never been through anything difficult or hard or doesn't have adversity in their life. And so that's where it comes from. The reason I thought of row the boat is it's so simple. It's so simple. Row, row, row your boat. We are all taught that nursery rhyme as a kid. And when I started to think of what do I want to have, this is crazy. When I was at Rutgers, because this is where Colton passed away. And he passed away at Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. That's CHOP. I was at Rutgers with Greg Schiano's Keep Chopping. I mean, you're talking about something that hit me in the face that you need to use this for something. It took me about 6 months to a year to actually come up with like row the boat and what it was going to be with the oar, the boat, the compass, the never give up lifestyle. But I mean, what are the chances that the name of the hospital's CHOP? Out of all the places in the world, I'm with Greg Schiano, who has Keep Chopping. Kyle Flood at the time, who's the coordinator at Texas, was going through something similar too. I mean, all these God winks, and I'm not getting religious on anybody, but you're talking about somebody telling you something like, I know it's really difficult, but this is going to be used to impact and influence so many people. And we're one of the only programs whose slogan is directly tied to charity. We don't make money off Row the Boat. The Children's Hospital does here on campus. And everything tied to Row the Boat goes to Masonic Children's Hospital. And it's just unique that you can take a football program and make it a life program of never giving up and rowing the boat. And you can combine all that in this transformational world that's supposed to be transactional right now. And you can change so many lives. So that's what makes Row the Boat so unique and special. And when you do share that, though, you better be ready for all the adversity. We've had people burn oars on the sideline. People make fun of Row the Boat. And you better be comfortable enough that know that once you share something publicly, people are going to bash you for it or bash the program for it or recruit against it.
Yeah, these young guns, these young coaches who are just so innovative, why was the why so important to them? Why was it everything?
In earlier eras, and certainly the one you came out of, there were a lot of coaches who didn't want players to ask questions about what's the justification for this schematic wrinkle or why do we run this play. There were a lot of coaches, probably at every level, whose answer would have been, shut up, it just works. It's just what we do. Just do it. And I think a lot of schemes, certainly there was innovation from Sid Gilman to Walsh and many other people, and a lot of things were passed down, but a lot of coaches didn't necessarily know the purpose behind it. In other words, why do we call it the flanker? I don't know. Bill Walsh just decided it was the flanker.
Yeah.
And why does this play? So you'd have plays and menus of plays like, oh, this run would be good. I like this pass, but it wasn't a cohesive ecosystem necessarily that always went together. And Mike Shanahan, and then certainly Kyle and his contemporaries, all of whom were on that staff in Washington with Mike Shanahan in the early 2010s, approached it a different way. It was more, anything we do has to weave together and there has to be a purpose and a justification for it in our mind. Don't even bring me a play idea if you can't tell me the justification for it and how it fits in. And we also need to be able to explain that to our players so that we can say, listen, I want you to take exactly 7.5 steps and then lead with this shoulder. And the reason you're doing this is because if you do, every time we are setting them up for this, or it will produce this. And players really responded to that. Again, many players had not always had that luxury. If anything, it had been the opposite. Don't ask questions, shut up, and just do what we say. That's their thing. They need to understand it. There has to be a larger understanding. And so to them, it's not just calling plays or, hey, let's pick this or pick that. It's a system. Mike Shanahan certainly was very into opponent-specific game planning, and that's something that obviously you saw with Belichick, certainly from the other side of the ball, which was very rare at that time. But we're going to come up with a plan this week for to try to figure out what the opponent does, make them not do that, and then counter their counter and have an answer for everything they do. And that became the thing. So you don't just have plays, you have a system. You're trying to use things to get to predict your opponent's actions based on their rules, respond to that by either breaking their rules or taking advantage of the vulnerabilities that come from their counter move and stay one step ahead. And then similarly, after each season or each planning session, you're trying to continually innovate on the fly and problem solve and stay ahead of other people's adjustments.